The day 200,000 people went silent. It is July 16th, 1950, and inside the Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro, nearly 200,000 people are about to watch their country win the World Cup. Newspapers already printed the headline. The mayor already wrote a victory speech. Brazil only needs a draw against Uruguay, and Brazil never loses at home. Then, in the final minutes, a Uruguayan striker slips the ball past the goalkeeper. And 200,000 people go silent. Not booing, not screaming, silent. Grown men would later say it felt like being at their own funeral. That moment has a name in Brazil to this day. They call it the Maracanazo, and it tells you everything about what this tournament actually is. Not a game, a mirror held up to entire nations, and sometimes what stares back is devastating. Rewind 20 years earlier to 1930. The idea for a World Cup barely survives its own birth. Only 13 teams show up, because Europe refuses to cross the Atlantic by boat for weeks just to play football in Uruguay. Uruguay builds an entire stadium from scratch in under a year, working through the winter just to prove they deserve to host. When they win the first ever final, fans in Buenos Aires are so furious they throw stones at the Uruguayan consulate. A trophy 4 years old, and it already has enemies. Then politics gets its hands on it. In 1934, Italy hosts the tournament under a fascist government that treats the trophy less like sport and more like propaganda. Players are reportedly told, in no uncertain terms, that losing is not an option they are permitted to consider. Italy wins. Nobody is sure how much of that victory belonged to the athletes and how much belonged to fear. By 1942 and 1946, there is no World Cup at all. The stadiums that would have hosted it are bombed-out shells instead. An entire global tournament erased twice in a row because the world was busy trying not to destroy itself. When it comes back in 1950, that's when you land back at the Maracana, at the silence, at 200,000 people who thought they were about to celebrate, and instead learned that history does not care what you already printed in the newspaper. Now push forward to 1970, a different kind of magic. A Brazilian teenager named Pelé is already a legend, but this tournament is the first ever broadcast in color, beamed into homes across the planet. For the first time, people in Europe and Africa and Asia watch the exact same ball roll across the exact same grass at the exact same second. Football stops being a local ritual. It becomes the closest thing humanity has to a shared heartbeat. Picture that for a second, not a country watching, a species watching, farmers in villages with a single shared television, office workers in Tokyo skipping lunch, kids in London sneaking a radio into class, all of them, for 90 minutes, caring about the exact same bouncing ball. But it can still break you. 1998 Paris. France is one win away from its first title, and their best player, Zinedine Zidane, is a national hero before the final whistle even blows. 8 years later, in 2006, in what everyone assumes will be his final match ever, Zidane headbutts an opponent in the chest, gets sent off, and walks past the World Cup trophy itself without even looking at it. One of the greatest careers in the sport's history ends in 12 seconds of something that looks less like sport and more like heartbreak wearing cleats. And then there's redemption. Lionel Messi spends nearly 2 decades being called the greatest player who never won the one trophy that mattered most. Argentina in 2014 loses the final in extra time. He is 35 years old by the time 2022 arrives in Qatar, considered by most to be past his prime, playing what he already announced will be his last World Cup. In the final against France, Argentina blows a 2-goal lead in the final 10 minutes. It goes to penalties. And when the last kick goes in, Messi collapses to his knees, not in defeat this time, but because after 20 years, the sky finally opens. That is the trick of this tournament. It has been hijacked by dictators. It has been erased by world wars. It has broken hearts in stadiums holding 200,000 people, and it has handed redemption to a man who waited his entire career for one afternoon in the desert. Every 4 years, billions of people who agree on almost nothing else agree to stop and watch. Different languages, different governments, different gods, all narrowing down to one ball and one net. It has never been just a game. It is the one stage on Earth where nearly every nation, rich or poor, at war or at peace, agrees to send its people onto the same patch of grass and let 22 players decide, for 90 minutes, who gets to feel like the center of the universe. Somewhere in Rio, there are still people alive who were in that stadium in 1950. Ask them what they remember, and they will not describe the goal. They will describe the silence,